Command.
That's why we have to sit down and speak about the black and the brown. That's why we have to sit down and speak about the black and the brown.
Let's go.
You dance and they can't control you. Your skin is not only dark.
That's why we have to sit down and speak about the black and the brown.
You dance and they can't control you. Your skin is not only dark.
The big 5.
Goes like a trophy when Naomi's walking. She need an Oscar for that pretty dark skin.
Here's a warning before we even get into the topic. I'm probably going to say some things that is, like, as usual, I do this on this channel. I'm probably going to say some things that are going to ruffle some feathers and they're going to make some people feel very uncomfortable. If you come to this channel, you have to be prepared for that when it's a commentary video, because BKCHAT, they talk about like real issues. Usually they speak nonsense, but it's entertaining. But I felt that this episode, something really needed to be said because this kind of stuff needs to be talked about. And so I'm just telling you, if you are someone who is sensitive to the point where you are not mature enough to hear another perspective, you can just click off of this video now. Because I don't have patience and I'm not going to engage with you. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm literally just stating I have a right to state my opinion. I have free speech. I'm not insulting anybody and I'm bringing my opinion to the table. If you can't handle that, please feel free to X out. You can dislike, do whatever you want, just leave. But if you dislike without watching, what does that say about you? What's good, guys, and Happy New Year. I haven't seen you guys since I think like November 2019. But Happy New Year, guys. We're starting off 2020 real strong. If you guys don't know what I'm drinking, it's Calypso Taste of the Islands. If you guys have not had Calypso, I'm looking over there. I always do that. Like let me just tell you right now, I'm not gonna promise to always look in the viewfinder. I may look in the screen. It's just easier for me. I like looking at myself when I talk. So if you guys don't know what Calypso is, this is obviously not like paid promotion or anything, but it's amazing. Taste of the Islands. Guys, get on this wave. If you know, you know. Like, I don't need to tell you. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button down below, and you make sure you also hit the thumbs up and share this video as well. Anyways, Happy New Year, guys. Hope your year is going great. I'm going to share with you a little bit more about my goals for the year in a later video. And I was going to do a Leave It in 2019 video. I still might do it. We're still in January. Nobody can tell me, because people are still saying Happy New Year. I can still do that video. It'll just have to be before the end of the year. But this isn't that video. This video today is about, it's a review of BKCHAT. I know I have not done a review of BKCHAT in so long. And like, even though they're not like my most popular videos, I don't care because I actually like talking about it. And some people do like watching them. So this past episode that they released today, because today is Wednesday, the 22nd of January, but it's going to be up on the Thursday. So yesterday. So the episode that they uploaded yesterday was about, the title was, "It's Not by Force. If I don't think you're a man, that's my opinion." So basically the question was, let me pull it up so I can like be precise. So the question was, it's 2019 and sexuality is fluid as it has ever been. People would like to be identified as the opposite sex, even without sex changes. Does there need to be a line drawn somewhere? Now, off the bat, there is, I did not know this, but Nina is bisexual. She identifies as bisexual. And then there's Terrell, who is FTM. He was born a female and is now transitioning to a male. And then they brought on Chris, who was, I think he's Arab, and he just said that he's in the community, LGBTQIA plus whatever community. There's so many letters, I don't know what it is. And like, he's in the community as well, but like, he didn't specify what he is. So first off the bat, Mark was the only person who was bold enough to ask questions. And I'm like, and as soon as he was just asking questions in his own way, all the girls on the panel were like, whoa, like, why you can't come out strong like that? No. You see, here's my thing. You can't be afraid to just speak, to ask questions, because how are you expecting people to take you seriously in your community if nobody can ask you questions? And it's not like he was even being disrespectful. He was literally just saying like, yo, what does this mean? Like, I literally just don't get it. And so I think that everybody who's always jumping on people who dare to question the community, that's garbage. Like, that's just garbage. Like, You have to be, if you're really serious about whatever life you want to live, you have to be able to answer questions, because it's not going to be obvious to people, and it's genuinely very confusing. Like if someone who's not typically interested in like that kind of lifestyle, or they don't agree with it, because it's not by force to agree with it. People can very much agree to disagree, but that's a different point. But like, if someone just has questions about something like, so what do you want to be called? Or like, how, like, I don't think this is this, or what does this mean? Or how exactly does this work? You can't just be jumping on them because you don't appreciate the way they ask questions. Like, see, the way that we even talk about this, you have to dance around it. So, because there are so many things you just can't say. And like, they did bring up in the episode how, they, like, in the school systems, they live in the UK obviously, so like, and they do this as well in Canada. I'm not sure about the States, but like in Canada you start learning about like gay, like a man and a woman and woman very, very early on in school, and that's like pushed at children, and that is what is normal or whatever, and like you just kind of have to be okay with that. And even the people who were supporters of the community, the I'm just going to say LGBT because I don't want to say all the letters and I don't know all the letters. And to be honest, I'm not going to search it up. So like LGBT, so the people who did support the LGBT community were saying that they don't necessarily think it's right for kids to be exposed to that so young, because it's just not something that's something that if it's confusing for adults, it's obviously going to be confusing for children as well. So it was pretty much across the board. You don't need to be introduced to that. And like, I agreed with that, to be honest. Like, I'm not even going to tell my kids about heterosexual sex or any of that stuff when they're young. They don't need to be concerned with that. But I also don't want them to be confused with like, so why, like asking questions they don't need to be asking yet. You know what I mean? And like, my whole issue with this episode, because there are a lot of episodes that have passed by, obviously haven't covered, but I really wanted to address this episode. Because this isn't a video for me to just be like, I feel this way about the community, I feel that way about the community. That's not what it is, but it is me talking. I am a Christian. I'm a Christian. Like, that's just like, I am very unashamed. I'm not perfect, but I am a Christian. That's what I identify as. That's how I choose to live. But I'm obviously far from perfect. But I'm also probably one of the most liberal Christians you'll ever meet. Like, for example, I have no problem being friends with Muslim people. I have no problem being friends with gay people. I have no problem drinking alcohol, like things like that. Like, that's just me. That's who I am, and I'm unashamed of that. And how I interpret the Bible and how I live my life is going to be different than how other people live their lives. This isn't about Christianity. I don't even know I'm trying to make this about Christianity. I'm just saying that's who I am. I'm not talking about whether it's right or wrong or being trans, because this isn't about being gay. This is about being trans. Sorry, it was about being trans and sexually fluid. That in itself, sexual fluidity is something that is, there's a very fine line between sexual fluidity and gender. And that was really, I feel like that was actually covered well in the episode, because it's like you don't know what to say. And one thing that really has to stop, it has to stop. It is perpetuated everywhere, in pop culture, in politics, in debates, in discussions, in real life. It's disgusting and it needs to stop. When you have a more conservative opinion, people just automatically label you as stupid. It is so patronizing, and it doesn't make sense because there's no argument for it. Just because you don't agree with someone, you are automatically labeled. I'm not even talking just from personal experience. I'm talking about from things that were in the episode and from things that I saw even in the comments and from people I talk to, like in my everyday life. Just from not agreeing with someone and having a more conservative opinion, you are labeled as dumb, or you're labeled as a bigot, or you're labeled as uneducated. Nobody, you cannot tell someone that they are uneducated because they choose, with their beliefs and the way that they've been brought up and what they've chosen to believe for themselves, they choose to not see eye to eye with you. They're not being disrespectful. They're just saying, I don't see eye to eye with you. I respect you as a human being. I can still relate with you the same way you choose to relate with me. However, I do not see eye to eye with you on this particular matter. Even if you say that, it's just in this specific discussion, it's so, like, it's just like everywhere. If you even dare question it, everybody's up in arms. Mark, people on the comments who usually, Mark, let me say this, Mark says a lot of nonsense, so much garbage in episodes. But in this episode, he was the realest person there. He's asking questions, just simple questions. And even Terrell, who is the female transgender to male, or is in the transition stage, was saying, I don't want pity. Like, he did start crying because he was getting upset, because he's like, it is hard. Like, it is, I can't imagine how difficult it must be for Terrell. I cannot imagine. I don't even want to think of the pain he's going through. But like, he says, I don't want pity. I don't want anyone coming to comfort me. It's like, he's literally just asking me questions. Like, all the girls are like, oh my God, like, how can you be saying that? Like, Mark just asked, yo, like, I don't get this. Like, what is it? He said, I don't think this is natural or whatever. And then Joe was like, you can't tell me what to agree with or what to disagree with. And he's like, I'm not expecting you to, like, it was that. But all the girls were like, oh my God, oh my God. It's in this specific discussion of sexuality and gender and like the LGBTQ community where I have noticed, if you dare question it, everybody will jump on you no matter what you say. Even if you just ask a question. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of the time, if you just ask, hey, what does this mean? People act as if you are like calling someone, people act as if you're like calling them a faggot, or like, I don't like saying that word, but like, if I say F word, you'll think of a different word. People think that you're calling them the F word, or like some derogatory like gay slur or like homophobic slur, like just from asking questions. It's so ridiculous. And I just think that honestly that hurts your case rather than helps it, because it's like, especially when you're in a room of predominantly LGBTQ advocates or allies or people in that community, it's like, to be like, honestly, it's very difficult. And like, for me, coming from a Nigerian background, I'm a Nigerian Canadian, and in Nigeria it's like the death penalty, or like about 14 years in jail even if you make it to jail, but like you will probably die like if you are gay. That's terrible. Like, I don't have words to describe how terrible that is and how much I do not agree with that. Let me just say that right now, I do not agree with killing people because of who they love. No. But like, in a place like that, where that's my background and that's where I come from, and that's where my parents come from, for me to now be living and born and raised in Canada with principles instilled in me from back home and biblical principles, I have to like, and people who are like me, who I often have these kinds of discussions with, you kind of have to, and people in this discussion are mostly like Nigerian and Caribbean, which is a similar thing. You have to like position yourself as to like find a happy medium between like what you choose to believe as right and what is respectful. Because it's so hard, like, just dancing around what is politically correct and this and that. You don't want to say, people are afraid of saying the wrong thing. And honestly, enough of that. I'm not saying you go out and insult them, but if you have a question, ask your question. If you don't agree with something, you should be free to say, I don't agree with this. Since we're having a discussion, I didn't just go walk up to you and be like, hey, you're bisexual. I think you're living a lie and I think you're condemned to hell. No, stop. I'm saying that, like, if we're already having a discussion and you're voicing your opinion about why you live this way, why you're choosing to live this way, I have every right to express why I don't feel that way. That's all I'm saying. And like, another thing that people need to stop doing, race and sexuality are not on the same level. That's not something I'm even going to get into with anybody. But like, the racial struggle, the institutionalized racial struggle, and homophobia. I'm not saying homophobia is not a problem, because it is a problem, but it's not the same thing. So when people start to compare the two as if they're on the same level, it's not on the same level. Not explaining it. You can come for me if you want. I'm saying they're both issues, but it's not the same. They're not on the same level. That's all I'm saying. Mark wins for me. Mark gets the prize for just not being afraid to speak his mind. And also Joseph wins the prize as well, because I want to insert this clip that he said here.
Seen in there, I might say straight like that, someone might go around the corner. And when I go straight to the corner, some people are thinking, raw man's, no, it's disrespectful. And then you're making me, what you're trying to do, no, what I'm trying to say is, okay, let me ask you, do you feel offended in the way I'm asking you questions?
Personally, no.
Okay, cool. Do you feel offended in the way I ask you questions, right? We talk about it straight away.
No, we just did it, just that.
Okay, cool. So my thing is now, from an outsider's perspective, yeah? When people now start dancing around, doing all these kind of things, and I'm not pointing out names particularly, it makes other people look bad. And that's a pressure on its own. Because we can't ask questions.
That's very
a pressure
true.
on its own. Because if I can't ask
it's
you a
like
question
any
the
little
way
thing you
I
say,
feel to
you're
ask
chatting
you,
shit.
because I want to understand in my own dialect, then therefore I'm the bad guy.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, just from asking questions, you're automatically labeled as uneducated or as hate speech, just from having a different viewpoint. And people, when I say that race is not on the same level, people will be like, I think it was Catherine, who usually speaks so much sense. She said, how many years ago being a biracial person was like, what is that? Okay, white people have existed for a long time. Not forever, but for a long time. Black people have existed for a very long time. Just because there was racism that was 1,000 times worse than it was now because of segregation and things like that, just because that was in place in society, doesn't mean that a mixed person was like mind-blowing and confusing. There's no confusion with a mixed person, because everyone, it doesn't take a scientist or a doctor to see that a black person and a white person will create a biracial black and white human being. But for a person who was, for in the case of Terrell, born a female, to one day come out and proclaim when they're ready to the world and say, I want to transition to a male, and like people are actually doing procedures to make that happen, that can be very confusing for people. That's not the same thing. And people really need to like start paying attention to these things. You can't compare the two just because there are two very real struggles. And like now I wanted to highlight what Joseph was saying.
Basically, what I was going to say, I don't understand, personally, I don't have a problem with like what everyone's been speaking about and who you are as a person. But I don't understand why people necessarily like get angry when someone doesn't want to accept you a certain kind of way. Like for me, it's not by force. I don't think you're a man, then that's someone's opinion. I don't know why there's such big pressure to like, I said I'm a man, so you have to accept me as a man. It's not by force. For me personally, I think what I'm saying, anyone who's a man is a guy who's got a dick. You're a man, that's how you're a man for me, innit? That's what I'm saying. So if
his personal
that's what I'm saying, that's my personal opinion. So if a girl comes to me and tells me, oh, I'm a man, I'm like, fam, I'm just going to look at you like, that means anyone can just go up walking around and start saying, yeah, I'm a dog, I'm a cat, I'm this, I'm barking, so I want you to address me as a dog. That does not mean you're a dog. Wait, hold on, I'm just trying to say, there's too much pressure. Just like you said, everyone has their own realities. In your reality, you feel like this is what you're meant to be. This is how you're thinking. Someone else's reality, I'm thinking like, I haven't been brought up this way. That person, I'm just saying, I expect you can live your life. Like, I'm not against, your problem is against the people that are like violent about it, like always getting onto everyone, people that actually intentionally hurting people. Yeah, like homophobic people. But I'm trying to say like, there's nothing wrong with not agreeing. Like, you don't have to agree. Everyone you come across doesn't have to be happy and be like, oh, I swear, how did that happen? Like, it's not always meant to be. People are allowed to have their own opinions. Everyone's from different backgrounds.
I'm gonna clean my room and go to bed. So, Queen Versace's out. Bye.